Echo and Apollo were dangerous, brutal, aggressive, and powerful. They didn't discriminate, and they didn't obey. They were a pair of pitbull terriers. The breed is considered so dangerous that it's banned in the UK under the 1991 Dangerous Dogs Act. But Americans are allowed to own them, and when poor ownership, missed red flags, and drugs are mixed up with one of the most dangerous breeds of dog in the world, disaster is bound to come along at some point. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. Adam Withers lived with his mother Susan at their home in Asheville, Ohio, but they also shared their home with Echo and Apollo. Although Adam loved his dogs, often posting photos of him cuddling them or them curled up on the couch onto his social media pages, he failed to notice just how dangerous they were. But the warning signs were there. Adam and Susan lived in a condominium complex, and on several occasions had received complaints from their neighbors. Everyone was worried about the dogs. They could see the harm they were capable of, and they knew that it was only a matter of time before tragedy struck. On October 26, 2023, the first to fall victim to the aggressive nature of Echo and Apollo was Kimberly Black and her puppy, a 4-month-old golden doodle named Nemo. While Nemo sniffed the ground and then patted around in circles before squatting, Kimberly heard a noise that made her instantly look up. Adam was opening his garage door and immediately shouted, "No, Apollo! No, Apollo!" An instant later, and the pit bull bolted out of the garage and ran straight toward Kimberly. Her heart thundered in her chest as she saw the massive dog rushing straight for her. She thought it was going to lunge at her throat, and she knew that if it latched on, then she would be dead. Kimberly looked up to see where Adam was, but he had run back inside the garage and watched, cowering from a window. He knew he couldn't control his dog, and he knew that his pet was in full frenzy mode. Kimberly screamed for the dog to stop, and another neighbor rushed out with a crowbar. Only when Adam saw the man with the crowbar did he step outside his garage, demanding they didn't hit his dog. The neighbor ordered Adam to retrieve Apollo, which he managed to do. But the damage was done. Nemo lay lifeless on the ground. Kimberly rushed him to the vet, but he couldn't be saved. After that, Adam and Susan were visited by the local dog warden, Preston Schumacher. He wanted to speak to them about the requirements of keeping such a dangerous dog. They must be microchipped, vaccinated, and properly restrained and confined, and their owners must carry liability insurance. But when Preston knocked on the door, nobody answered. He tried again at a later date, but still no luck. In the end, the mother and son were ticketed and required to buy a dangerous dog tag, post a sign on their property, keep the dog confined, and walk him on a muzzle and short chain leash. Incredibly, under Ohio law, they did not have to put their dog down after the attack on Kimberly and Nemo. After receiving the ticket, Adam lashed out online at the authorities, showing no remorse towards Kimberly or Nemo. He took to social media, reporting that humans were the problem, not the dogs. But the close-knit community were about to find out just how much of a problem the dogs could be. 73-year-old JoAnn Echelbarger lived next door to Adam and Susan with her husband Stanley. 84-year-old Stanley was suffering from dementia and was cared for by his loving wife. He was mostly wheelchair-bound. On Thursday, October 17, 2024, JoAnn was planting flower bulbs outside her front door. It was a pleasant, sunny day, but terror and tragedy were about to rip through the complex once more. Echo and Apollo had just eaten something. It was something that supercharged their bodies and their minds. Something that turned dangerous dogs into mindless killing machines. The pit bulls had found Adam's stash of cocaine and devoured the entire contents. Fueled on the drugs, Echo and Apollo suddenly tore out of their house and raced up towards JoAnn, who was crouched down in her flower garden. In an instant, they had launched an attack on her. She screamed and cried for help. The powerful jaws of the dogs came raining down on her, tearing at her skin, muscle, and bone. She was powerless to stop it. They had completely floored her, and she lay on the cold, hard ground, trying desperately to fight back, but they were overpowering. The screams of Joanne were overheard by another neighbor, Carol Edgar, who rushed outside, and that's when she saw the two dogs. She rushed back to her garage to get her phone and called 911. When officers arrived, they pulled up outside Joanne's house. Instantly, the two dogs rushed at them. Police officer Antonio Jester fired at them, and Apollo scampered, disappearing around the complex. But Echo ran back to Joanne's body that was lying limp on the ground. Antonio Jester and Police Chief Daniel Metler then cautiously walked towards Joanne's house. Stanley was in the screened-in porch, keeping away from the dogs. He asked them to help his wife. He knew that she needed urgent medical assistance. Daniel radioed through for an ambulance, but they couldn't reach Joanne because Echo was standing over her body. Antonio asked Daniel if he could shoot the dog. They hesitated momentarily before deciding to put the dog down. The second dog was located and also destroyed. With the dogs out of the way, Antonio rushed to Joanne's side. She was barely alive, but she had something she desperately wanted to tell him. He leaned in close so that he could hear her faint voice over her labored breathing. "I don't want to leave Stanley," she said. Those were the last words Joanne muttered. Her final thoughts were about her beloved husband, the love of her life. To Joe, family was everything. She was always so proud of their achievements, keeping mementos of their successes as the years ticked by. It wasn't clear how Echo and Apollo broke out of their home. There was a small tear in the screen door that could have allowed them to escape, but officers thought it was the lack of a latch on the front door that could have been the problem. On Thursday, February 13, 2025, a jury returned guilty verdicts for both Susan and Adam. The mother and son showed little remorse for their neighbor, but were both visibly upset when showed body cam footage of the police shooting their beloved dogs. Pickaway County Common Pleas Court Judge Matthew Chafin sentenced them to 14 to 19 and a half years in prison. They could apply for release after 10 years. It's considered the longest criminal sentence for a dog attack in state history. Following the death of his wife, Stanley moved to a care home where he lost the will to live and passed away in March 2025.